So it's just a coincidence that the video you took of Mr. Depp was released the day before you were deposed in connection with your divorce from Mr. Depp.
I absolutely had nothing to do with that. I wouldn't even know how to do something like that.
How is it that you didn't just remember all of those events like this?
And he kept that promise, hasn't he?
As far as I know, he cannot look at me.
He won't look at you, right, Ms. Heard?
He can't.
What, if any, contact did you have with Mr. Depp during the period from April 21 to May 21, 2016?
I had no physical contact with him.
Okay. I'm going to take you to May 2nd, 2016, the Met Gala. Can you please just briefly describe to the jury what a Met Gala is, where it is, and what's involved?
It's arguably the biggest fashion kind of celebrity event, red carpet event of the year. It happens every year in New York City.
And were you invited?
I was invited. Typically, designers will invite people in the public eye to be their, guest, and they will typically dress them, and it's a way for designers or fashion to kind of intersect with a celebrity world, and it's a big event held at the museum every year.
And what, if anything, did you and Mr. Depp do to prepare for that Met Gala?
Well, Johnny and I were we were dressed by Ralph Lauren, guests of Ralph Lauren, and Johnny missed the fitting because it was happening around the date of my birthday party in Los Angeles. But we were planning on going together as Ralph Lauren's guests.
Okay. And did you show up?
I did. I didn't have a phone at the time because I couldn't get it reinstated after Johnny threw it out of the window because no one on his team would respond to me. So I had no way to kind of reinstall it. I had, it's no point in getting a burner phone if you don't know anyone's phone number. So I wasn't sure really what was going on or when he would show up or if he would show up. No one would talk to me on his team. No one would tell me. I didn't know. So I ended up going by myself. Frankly, I wasn't sure if he'd show up and, on the carpet or if he'd show up at the hotel shortly before. I had no way of knowing.
All right. And then did you attend the Met Gala?
I did. I got out of the car and walked the red carpet by myself, escorted by somebody from Ralph Lauren's team. And I sat next to an empty place setting for Johnny that they cleared as soon as we realized that that he effectively stood me up on the carpet.
Who did you meet at the Met Gala?
I was standing in line right in front of a gentleman. It was Elon. I didn't recognize him until we started talking. And he had reminded me that we had met once before. He was with his mother.
Okay. And did you strike up a friendship with Mr. Musk after that?
We did. We, as I mentioned, we spoke on the red carpet, kind of on the waiting line of the carpet. He seemed like a real gentleman. He was really nice, and he sat next to me. Well, not next to me. He sat kind of at a nearby table, and we got to speaking that night, and then eventually became friends. All I have is my name. I come from nothing. All I have is my integrity. All I have is my name. And that's exactly what he promised to take from me.
Why did you agree to accept $7 million as your settlement?
I didn't care about the money. I was told if I didn't agree to a number, that it could be overturned. That this would never it would never get complete, it would never settle.
Objection,
and then it would
hearsay.
be overturned.
What was your
Sustained, go ahead.
What was your understanding?
That if I didn't agree to a number, it would be overturned. So I took far less than what they were offering and what I was entitled to.
And why did you donate it to charity?
I promised the entirety of it to charity because I was never interested in Johnny's money. And in the divorce, I just wanted my safety. I wanted to move on with my life. I wanted my future. And then he started compromising that, calling me a liar, making it impossible for me to move on. by doing so that I wanted the truth. I wanted him to clear my name and to leave me alone. I've been saying that since 2016.
So why did you donate 3.5 to Children's Hospital and 3.5 to ACLU?
Well, I pledged the first half, or 3.5, to Children's Hospital because I'd been working there as a volunteer for well over a decade. I knew the facility well. I'd worked there with another nonprofit, is how I got affiliated with them, and I knew they could use the resources. I was familiar with it. And
What about the ACLU?
And then ACLU, because I was a supporter, because I believed in the work they were doing. I believed that they were doing good work for people who deserved it.
Why did you make the donations over a period of time as opposed to just a lump sum?
Two reasons. The short of it is because I was receiving the settlement in installments. I was receiving the installments over time. Second of all, so I could get the tax benefit of paying over time. You know, it's my understanding that's how you pay these like large sums. You pay it over time.
Did you make any payments towards these donations?
I did.
Okay. Approximately how much?
I allowed for the first installment, which is $100,000 to each. That came straight from Johnny in 2016. I followed up with $350,000 that year, 2016. 2018, I did another. Oh, and I also donated to $250,000 to Art of Elysium, which is the affiliate I was just speaking about, that does the work in the Children's Hospital. It was not going to count towards my overall pledge, but I did that too. And then I did another donation to each in 2018. And then Johnny sued me, 2019.
Before we get to that, did anyone make donations to the Children's Hospital or ACLU on your behalf during that time period?
Yes, Elon also, Elon, who was my boyfriend at the time, had his own charitable contributions that he made. He made $500,000 to both in my honor, in my name, in 2017, I believe.
And have you completely fulfilled your donations to the ACLU and the Children's Hospital?
I have not yet.
And why not?
Because Johnny sued me for $50 million in March of 2019. And I have spent over $6 million.
Objection, Your Honor.
When did you earlier believe the first act of physical violence occurred?
Well, I had always believed up until recently that it had started later, that the violence started around early 2013, not early 2012.
Now, you testified earlier that the first act of physical violence by Mr. Depp related to the Winona Wino tattoo. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Okay. Does that change your testimony, realizing that this is earlier? Was this, in fact, still the first act?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
What was the first act?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
How do you remember the first act of violence?
Well, you never forget it. That's how I remember it. It changes your life forever. You never forget the first time someone hits you like that. I just had the date wrong.
Okay. And how is it that you think you got the date wrong?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I'm embarrassed to say I think I would have liked to have believed that the period of time in which I had to fall in love with Johnny, in which we fell in love, and he was sober, and he wasn't violent to me, lasted for a lot longer than it did. I think I would have liked to have believed that I wasn't hit so early in the relationship and still stayed. He was also sober for a period in 2012, which was a peaceful time for us, in which we fell in love. So I had kind of allowed myself, I guess, to forget that the beginning of that period, 2012, before he got sober, was was really violent and chaotic as well. I'm embarrassed to say that.
Now, you testified that the police were called multiple times. Other than the May 21, 2016, what other occasions were there where the police were called?
They were called in December of 2011. They were called in 2012. They were called in 2013 in March by the landlord. I had sought advice from Laurel Anderson as to whether I should call the police following
Objection,
the December.
hearsay.
Sustain.
Okay. When you filed the domestic violence temporary restraining order, how many acts of abuse did you allege at that time?
I gave the last couple, I believe, last two incidents, maybe three.
And why didn't you tell of all the acts of abuse at that time?
I was following advice from my counsel.
Okay. How many instances of abuse were included in the UK trial?
There were 14 acts of physical abuse and violence and 3 acts of sexual abuse. Violence.
And why were those 17 included in the UK trial?
Well, I was not a party, a direct party. I was a witness, so it was whatever their counsel, the Sun Council, chose.
Okay. When is the first time you were called upon to provide a detailed accounting of as many times as you could recall of physical and sexual abuse by Mr. Depp?
Objection, hearsay.
That's not hearsay, Your Honor. I'm asking her when she was called upon to do so.
Well, the objection is hearsay.
Right, but it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, and it's just asking for date.
All right, overruled.
Thank you.
A few months ago, February in 2022, this year, was the first time I was asked to do so, other than cold in a deposition.
Okay. And when you were asked to provide those, what did you do to be able to prepare that accounting, that full accounting?
Well, I had the benefit of my therapist.
Objection, hearsay.
So, Your Honor, she's not saying what the therapist said. I'm just asking.
I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I looked at my therapist notes. I had the benefit of those notes, which we had received in February, as well as I reviewed calendars, photos, text messages, my journals, my diaries, of which there were many. I put all of those together. It took a lot of time to be able to, adequately refresh my recollection and fill in the details over the course of the 5 years we were together.
And what did you do when you put that all together?
I kind of filled in and collected all of these various pieces of information and gave a fuller account as best I could for each incidents of violence that I had record of. I think it was called an interrogatory.
In this case?
In this case,
All right.
excuse
Did
me.
you sign that under oath?
I did.
Okay. And it was provided to counsel for Mr. Depp?
It was.
Okay. And was it a pretty lengthy document?
It was far too long.
And how is it that you didn't just remember all of those events like this?
That's not how your memory or my memory works. We were together for 5 years, almost 4.5, and it was a very violent, chaotic, at times very loving, emotional relationship. So as anyone can imagine, there was a lot going on, and unfortunately the violence became almost normal, especially towards the end. It was just, it's hard to say that now, but the violence was almost normal. And, your brain does with trauma what it does, puts it away best you can. So I was frankly, I was shocked to see a lot of the information presented to me through my therapist notes because she was taking them in real time.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
All right, I'll sustain her objection.
Okay, we'll move past what the therapist said in her notes. Okay, I'm going to take you to the tape recordings. Why did you and Mr. Depp start taping each other?
Well, at first it was, not at first, it was meant to be a way to get to the heart of some of our communication issues in order to discover in a therapeutic fashion kind of what was some of our issues in our communication.
Okay. Now, we heard an audio tape earlier during this trial in which you said the word couch repeatedly. Can you please explain to the jury what that meant?
Yes. Couch was a word that we had been given, that we decided upon, rather.
Objection, hearsay.
Just tell us what Mr. Depp said about this.
That it was a safe word. It was meant to be a safe word, like a word, like truce, where you put down the proverbial guns and you say, truce, we're not fighting anymore. Couch was supposed to be a word that you used, or that we used as a truce. I don't want to fight anymore. You win. Let's stop this. That was the mention of couch, which you heard earlier in a recording.
Now, what, if any, discussions did you have with Mr. Depp about threatening to divorce each other or threatening to leave?
Objection calls for hearsay to the
I'm
extent it
asking for-
calls for Ms. Heard's statements.
I'm asking for discussions with Mr. Depp.
Still her.
Just tell us what Mr. Depp said. Don't tell us what you said.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What did Mr. Depp say in your discussions about the use of the term threatening to divorce or threatening to leave each other?
Objection, leading.
Overrule.
Well, Johnny would always say the only way out of this was death. But in fights, in particularly heated ones, we had found, we were using divorce in the fight, in some of our heated fights. We tried not to, but that kind of deteriorated after the December incident that I got beat up pretty badly in, and after that point, it was used a lot more often.
Good afternoon, Ms. Heard.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Depp hasn't looked at you once this entire trial, has he?
Not that I've noticed, no.
You've looked at him, though, many times, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
You know exactly why Mr. Depp won't look back at you, don't you?
I do.
He promised you you would never see his eyes again. Isn't that true?
I don't recall if he said that.
One of the last times you ever saw Mr. Depp was when you met him in San Francisco in July of 2016, right?
That was the second to last time I saw him, yes.
And this was after you had publicly accused him of domestic violence.
I got my restraining order before that, yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is after you had obtained the domestic violence restraining order against him.
That's correct.
Let's please play Plaintiff's Exhibit 1229.
I don't understand. Is this what you want?
No. Oh, no, a hug will save it all. All this, everything we just been
I
through.
just wanted to touch you.
Really? After all this shit you just said?
I just wanted to give
After
you
all
a
this
hug.
shit you fucking
Yes,
accused me of? You
yes,
want to
please,
touch me?
please stop me.
Fucking,
Please stop.
fucking nuts.
Please, I just wanted to hug you and to say bye. I wanted to end
Yeah,
back.
we did that last night. It's fine. That was good enough.
No,
No, because I'm nothing to you. And I will always be nothing to you.
Calm. Calm.
What? You're not my shrink. No, you're in a fucking hole. No, we'll never see each other again. You won't even don't take my fucking glasses off. You don't like fucking looking at not my fucking eyes? You will not see my eyes again.
That's you and Mr. Depp in that recording.
That is.
And this is from when you and Mr. Depp met in San Francisco in July of 2016, right?
Yes, that's what it sounds like. That was In the hotel. We met once after that as well.
This is after you publicly accused him of domestic abuse.
Yes, and got my TRO.
Yeah. And he tells you you will not see my eyes again, doesn't he?
Yes, he does in that recording.
And he kept that promise, hasn't he?
As far as I know, he cannot look at me.
He won't look at you, right, Ms. Heard?
He can't.
One of the first questions your counsel asked you on direct is, why are you here? Do you remember that?
I do.
Let's please play Plaintiff's Exhibit 357A, which is already in evidence, Your Honor. And for the record, it's 2122 through 2140.
Fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
Yes.
it's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
That's your voice on that recording, right?
Yes, it is.
And you were speaking with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And you said to Mr. Depp, quote, you can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and the judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, a victim too of domestic violence, end quote. That's what you said, right?
I was saying it to the man who beat me up, yes. I thought it was preposterous.
And the man you beat up numerous times. Right, Ms. Heard?
I could never hurt Johnny.
You're here in this courtroom because Mr. Depp finally told the world that he is a victim of domestic violence.
I know that he is suing me and has sued other people or corporations that have said that as well.
You didn't think he would tell the world he was a victim of domestic violence, did you?
I found it hard to believe that he could or that he would do that, considering the relationship he and I had. I thought it would be crazy for him to do so, knowing what I know we lived through.
Or, as you said to him in that recording, who was going to believe that Johnny Depp, a man, is a victim of domestic violence, right?
With all due respect, I wasn't saying it because he's a man. I was saying it because he was a man who beat me up for 5 years.
Mr. Depp is your victim, isn't he?
No, ma'am.
And once he left you, you continued to abuse him publicly by calling him an abuser, didn't you?
He is an abuser, and you can look either of us up online and figure out who's being abused online.
Let's look at some of that. Mr. Depp wears rings on every finger, doesn't he, Ms. Heard?
That's my experience, yes.
And they're not delicate rings, are they?
No, they are not.
Every one of his fingers is adorned, your words, big, chunky rings. Isn't that right?
That's my experience of him.
And Mr. Depp is always wearing rings, right, Ms. Heard?
That's my experience of him.
And you've never known him not to wear these rings.
That's my experience, is he normally wore rings, yes.
So Mr. Depp was wearing these big, chunky rings on every finger, every incident of abuse you've described to this jury, right?
I can't say for certain it was in every single incident.
But you've never known him not to wear rings, right?
In general, my experience with Johnny is that he wears rings almost all the time.
Ms. Heard, you testified to an incident in March of 2013 where Mr. Depp hit you in the face multiple times. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
And you testified, quote, you don't know how many times he hit you in the face.
That's correct.
You testified that this is a picture you took after that incident, right, Ms. Heard?
Yes, that was one where he grabbed me.
And hit you in the face so many times that you don't remember. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And there's no injuries to your face in this picture, are there?
Not that this picture shows.
And there's no medical records reflecting that you sought treatment after this alleged incident either.
I did not seek medical treatment at this time.
So there's no medical records reflecting any injuries to your face after he hit you several times.
I did not need to go to the doctor at the time.
Despite hitting you several times that you lost count with rings on his fingers.
That's correct. I did not seek medical attention, other than my therapist.
You testified to another incident in March of 2013 where Mr. Depp hit you while he was wearing a lot of rings. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
And you testified you felt like your lip went through your teeth and it got a little blood on the wall.
Yes, I remember that.
There isn't a picture of you with injuries after that alleged incident, is there?
I don't know if I've seen one. I can't recall. There are a lot of pictures.
You didn't produce any photographs after that alleged incident, did you, Ms.
I don't
Wright?
know if I took one or if it's included. I'm not quite sure which ones.
You didn't show any pictures to this jury after describing that alleged incident, that your teeth, your lip went into your teeth. You don't remember that, right? You didn't show any pictures to this jury after describing that incident, right?
I don't believe I've seen that picture admitted.
That picture doesn't exist.
I don't know which one you're talking about. We have pictures from March 2013, yes.
The only picture that you've produced and shown to this jury is the one that was just put up on the screen, where you said he hit you multiple times in the face, and you appear to have what is a bruise on your arm, correct?
I believe this is the only picture that's in evidence right now.
That's the only picture you've shown to this jury from March 2013, correct?
I believe so.
You testified about an incident in Russia on or about June 26, 2013. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's correct.
You testified that Mr. Depp, quote, whacked you in the face.
That's correct.
And you went to the bathroom after that, right?
I did.
And then, according to your testimony, when you came out of the bathroom, Jerry Judge, Mr. Depp's security guard, who's passed away, pointed out that your nose was bleeding, right?
He did that in the hallway.
And you said you hadn't known that your nose was bleeding until Jerry Judge pointed it out to you?
Yes, that's correct. I was unaware until he brought it up to me. I didn't see it when I was in the bathroom, but I wasn't looking.
So it's your testimony that you went into the bathroom and didn't look in the mirror, which I assume was in the bathroom, to notice that your nose was bleeding?
That's not why I went into the bathroom. I went into the bathroom crying. I don't even know if I paid attention to the mirror. I certainly didn't enough to notice any blood.
And you didn't take any pictures of your bloody nose either, did you?
I did not.
But pictures were taken of you in Russia, though. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We had a dinner.
Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1248. And this is you and Mr. Depp in Russia for the Lone Ranger premiere, correct?
It was a dinner function, I believe, in promotion of the movie. Wasn't the premiere, if I recall.
You don't have any visible injuries to your face, do you?
None that you can see.
This is also a picture from when you were in Russia for the Lone Ranger premiere, right?
That is correct.
And you have no visible injuries to your face, do you?
None that you can see.
Even though Mr. Depp whacked you in the face so hard that your nose bled?
He did.
While wearing chunky big rings, right?
That's correct.
You also testify that Mr. Depp, again, whacked you in the face after the Met Gala in May of 2014, right?
That is correct.
You testified that you thought he hit you so hard he broke your nose.
That's correct.
You said your nose was, quote, swollen, discolored, red.
That is correct. I took a picture of that.
You testified you took a picture of your face after this.
I did.
But you didn't show that picture to this jury, did you?
I would like to.
But you didn't show it, did you?
That's not up to me.
You understand you were under an obligation to produce all photographs after any alleged incidents of violence, right, Ms. Heard?
I produced everything.
You didn't produce any photographs after the Met Gala.
I produced everything.
You also understand that you're under an obligation to produce all medical records reflecting any injuries you allegedly sustained from Mr. Depp, correct?
That's correct.
And you haven't produced any pictures or any medical records reflecting a broken nose after the Met Gala in May of 2014, have you?
I have given everything to my lawyers. Everything. I've turned over literally everything that I have.
Is it your testimony, Ms. Heard, that you sought medical treatment after Mr. Depp allegedly broke your nose after the Met Gala?
Not after the Met Gala. I did not seek medical attention, no.
You also attended an event after the Met Gala in May of 2014, didn't you?
That is correct.
And you went to the All-Star Comedy Tribute to Don Rickles.
That is correct.
That was the next night after the Met Gala.
That is correct.
And there were pictures of you taken at this event.
Yes.
Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1252. This is a picture of you, Ms. Heard,
Yes, it is.
at that event,
Yes, it is.
the night after the Met Gala.
Yes, it is.
The night after Mr. Depp allegedly broke your nose?
I'm not sure if it was broken, for the record, but yeah, you should see what it looked like underneath the makeup.
He whacked you so hard in the face that you thought you had broken your nose.
Exactly.
Right. Permission to admit this photograph.
All right, 1252 in evidence.
This is a picture of you, Mr. Depp, and Don Rickles, right?
That is correct.
Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1253. This is another picture from that evening, right, Ms. Heard?
Yes, it is.
Permission to admit Exhibit 1253 and publish it.
All right, so moved. 1253 in evidence.
This is a picture of you and Mr. Depp at the event the night after Mr. Depp allegedly whacked you in the face so hard you thought he had broken your nose.
He did whack me in the face, and I did think it broke my nose.
And this is you the night after.
Yes, it is.
Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1254. This is also a picture of you at the same event, correct, Ms. Heard?
That is correct.
Move to admit Plaintiff's Exhibit 1254.
All right, 1254 in evidence. You can publish. Thank you.
And just to confirm now that the jury can see it, this is a picture of you at the same event, the night after Mr. Depp allegedly whacked you in the face so hard you thought he broke your nose.
This is a picture of me after he did whack me in the face.
The night after, right?
Yes, it is. I believe it was the night after, yes.
Your nose doesn't appear to be injured in any of these pictures, does it, Ms. Heard?
I'm wearing makeup.
Your nose doesn't appear to be injured in any of these pictures, does it, Ms. Heard?
That's why I'm wearing makeup.
Right. And makeup covers up swelling, right?
Makeup will not cover up swelling. Ice will, though.
Ice will cover up swelling?
Ice reduces swelling. Normally, the swelling after that kind of injury is not as bad as you might imagine, and for me, it wasn't that bad. I have a picture of it underneath the makeup. That's how I know how to reference it.
A picture you haven't produced or shown to
did.
this jury, right, Ms. Heard?
I produced everything.
But you haven't shown it to this jury.
I would very much like to. It's not my job.
Ms. Heard, you testified that in January of 2015, there was an incident in Tokyo before Mr. Depp's Mordecai, the film Mordecai's premiere. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you told this jury that on this occasion, Mr. Depp was kneeling on your back.
That's correct, in the closet.
And you also told this jury that you wore a backless dress to the Mordecai premiere that very same night.
I did.
And you testified that you were checking for bruises in the car on the way back, on the way to the event to make sure that there were, quote, no visible marks, right?
I was checking on my phone after the event to make sure that you couldn't see anything.
Your testimony was that you were checking in the car on the way to the event to make sure that there were no marks on your back.
Perhaps I misspoke or I misunderstood. It was on the way back from it. Was after I was concerned. After, concerned that there would be marks in any photographs since we were being photographed at Johnny's press event.
And you didn't show this jury a picture of you in that backless dress, though, did you?
I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry.
You didn't show this jury a picture of you at the Mordecai premiere wearing a backless dress, did you?
I haven't had the opportunity to.
Okay,
I assume you have it?
I do. Let's please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1256. This is a picture of you and Mr. Depp, or the back of you, at the Mordecai premiere in Tokyo, correct, Ms. Heard?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I move to admit and publish this picture.
All right, 1256 in evidence.
This is you in the backless dress at the Mordecai premiere in Tokyo, right?
That is correct.
You would agree that there are no bruises or visible marks on your back in this picture?
No, not that I could see.
I'll show you one other photo. If we could please have Plaintiff's Exhibit 1257. This is a front angle picture of you and Mr. Depp at that premiere, correct?
That is correct.
Move to admit Plaintiff's Exhibit 1257.
All right, 1257 in evidence.
I'll show you one more picture. Plaintiff's Exhibit 1258. And again, Ms. Heard, this is you and Mr. Depp at the Mordecai premiere.
Yes, it is.
Move to admit Plaintiff's Exhibit 1258.
All right, 1258 in evidence. Publish.
And that's the backless dress, right, Ms. Heard?
That is correct.
You also told this jury about an incident in Australia in March of 2015.
Yes, that's correct.
You testified that after this alleged incident, you had cuts on your forearms, right?
Yes, that's true.
And you testified that you had cuts on the bottoms of your feet as well.
Yes, that's true.
And you testified that you had a bruise across your jaw from when Mr. Depp, quote, clocked you in the face, end quote.
That's true.
You didn't take any pictures of these injuries while you were in Australia, did you?
I don't think I took any pictures.
You just took 2 pictures of Mr. Depp's writing on a mirror. Isn't that right?
I believe so, yes.
So you had your phone on you, right?
At some point I did have my phone.
And your iPad?
I had my iPad, I believe.
And you testified that you were also raped with a liquor bottle in Australia, right, Ms. Heard?
Yes.
You testified you bled from your vagina as a result of that sexual assault.
Yes.
There aren't any medical records reflecting that you sought medical treatment for any of these injuries, are there?
I did not seek medical treatment after Australia, no.
Not for the rape?
No, I did not want to tell anyone.
Not for the cuts?
No,
Not for the injuries to your face?
I didn't need to.
Directing your attention, Ms. Heard, to the photograph. This is a photograph you took in March of 2013, right?
That is correct.
And this was taken at your apartment in Orange?
Yes,
And this is your breakfast table?
that is correct.
And it's your testimony that Mr. Depp left this breakfast table just the way you took it?
That is correct.
So this is what the table looked like after Mr. Depp had been doing cocaine?
Well, clearly he has yet to snort these lines.
There are 4 lines of cocaine on this table, right, Ms. Heard?
In this picture, I see 4 lines.
There isn't any cocaine residue around those lines, right?
Not that I can tell, no.
Doesn't really look like anyone's been doing cocaine off that table, does it?
With all due respect, I'm not sure you know how that works.
I'm asking if you do. You've testified you've done cocaine.
I have.
Doesn't really look like Mr. Depp or anyone was doing cocaine off that table, does it?
I beg to differ with you on that. When you snort cocaine, typically it goes into your nose.
And there's
Doesn't stay on the table.
There's residue from that cocaine when your lips and nose touch the table, right?
Well, the tampon applicator next to the driver's license that you see is a device that I believe my sister had taught him to use in order to put the cocaine in your nose.
Mr. Depp is a pretty heavy smoker, right?
He is.
And that's a cigarette in the ashtray in the back there? Back right?
Yes, it looks like one of his hand rolls.
There's no other cigarettes in that ashtray, are there?
I see 1 cigarette.
The one that's not smoked.
That's correct.
There's no ash in that ashtray either, is there?
Not that I can tell in this picture.
It's pretty clean.
In this picture, it looks like it, yes.
It's a pretty neat table. Wouldn't you agree?
Depends on what you would call neat, I suppose.
And you sent this picture to your friend, Rocky Pennington, as well, didn't you?
I sure did.
And when you sent it, you said, quote, "Look at my morning," or something like that. Is that right?
Yay for mornings.
So you have a habit of sending staged photographs to your friend Rocky, don't you?
I had a habit of communicating with my best friend about what was going on in my life.
You don't have any pictures of Mr. Depp actually consuming cocaine, do you?
I don't think I have a picture of him mid-snort. No.
You don't even have any pictures of Mr. Depp with cocaine.
What do you mean by that?
Holding cocaine, standing next to cocaine, sitting next to cocaine.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you haven't shown any of those pictures like that to the jury, have you?
I don't know. No, I haven't.
And you were never able to catch Mr. Depp with cocaine on film either, were you?
I never tried.
But you were able to catch him sleeping, right?
I have seen him pass out in all sorts of places, yes.
And you also captured a video of Mr. Depp in the kitchen that was played again for this jury today, beating up some cabinets. Do you recall that?
Sorry, say that again?
You recall capturing Mr. Depp in the kitchen of one of his homes, beating up some cabinets?
Yes. Slamming things around, yes.
So you took that video of Mr. Depp in the kitchen, right?
I did.
And you took it on one of your iPad devices?
I took it on my iPad.
You were deposed in August of 2016 in connection with your divorce proceedings from Mr. Depp, right?
That is correct.
And you will recall that the video of Mr. Depp in the kitchen was released online the day before your deposition in August of 2016, don't you?
That's correct.
You're the one who released that video.
Incorrect.
Isn't that true?
That's incorrect. I flew in from another place at the time. I remember learning about it when I landed.
So it's just a coincidence that the video you took of Mr. Depp was released the day before you were deposed in connection with your divorce from Mr. Depp.
I absolutely had nothing to do with that. I wouldn't even know how to do something like that.
This is a note you wrote in the journal to Mr. Depp, correct?
That's what it looks like, yes.
This is actually the first note you wrote to him in this journal.
I don't remember what the first note was.
The date on this note is May 22nd, 2015, correct?
That is correct. That was during our honeymoon period.
This is just a little bit over 2 months after the events in Australia in March of 2015, right?
That's correct. We were back in a honeymoon phase. That was the period of sobriety I spoke about yesterday.
When after Mr. Depp had allegedly assaulted you with a bottle, right?
It was after the stairs and it was after the Australia incident, yes. And he got clean and sober and we went back to Australia.
It's also 2 months after you punched Mr. Depp because you allegedly thought he was going to throw your sister down the stairs, right?
I hit him when he swung at my sister. And this is written months later, yes.
You thought he was going to throw your sister down the stairs like he had thrown Kate Moss down the stairs, right?
He swung at Whitney, and I had heard a vague rumor about that. And so it's what I thought of.
In this first message to Mr. Depp in your journal, you write, quote, "True love isn't about just the madness of passion or instead picking the safety of peace. No, it's about having both, falling madly in love with your friend. That is what has surprised me perhaps the most, that I have seen in you the true bones of friendship and respect. But of course, I still, perhaps more than ever, want to rip you apart, devour you, and savor the taste. Fret not. XX Slim."
Yes, it's a love note.
Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
And you're Slim, right?
That's correct.
Ms. Heard, I'm now going to ask you to take a look at the very last entry you wrote in this journal, which seems to be from April 8th. That would be April 8th, 2016, correct?
I'm not quite sure. I don't see the year written on there, and I don't recognize it yet.
It would be a couple weeks. April 8th would be a couple weeks before your birthday, though, right?
That's correct.
Just to confirm, this is a note you wrote to Mr. Depp, right?
That's what it looks like, yes.
And on the second page of this note, you wrote the following, quote, "I'm sorry I can get crazy. I'm sorry I hurt you. Like you, I can get wicked when I am hurt, when I feel provoked, shattered. And last night I was. I felt abandoned about the Lily Rose thing, felt absolutely bewildered about your not coming home on my last night here, and was heartbroken and angry after many attempts in vain on my part to rectify the situation and make amends on the last night of what was otherwise a gorgeous trip with you. I'm so sorry for my part. None of this is meant to be an excuse for hurting you, because the truth is, nothing is. There is never a reason good enough to hurt you. You are the last thing in the whole world who deserves it. Last person I ever meant to hurt. I love you, Steve. I am forever yours, Slim." Did I read that correctly?
That's correct.
This is a picture of you with what appears to be straight red marks on your arms, correct?
Those are scars from the broken glass.
And they're straight and red, right?
I disagree with how you characterize that, but they are red, yes.
And they're on your left arm?
Yes, that's correct.
Ms. Heard, you have a history of cutting yourself, don't you?
I do not.
You cut your arm once as a teenager, isn't that right?
No, I said I wanted to. When I was put on birth control pills when I was a teenager, I felt crazy, and I said I felt suicidal.
So it's your testimony under oath that you didn't report to Dr. Hughes, your retained psychologist, that you had cut yourself as a teenager once?
I said I had told my mom that I wanted to when I was a teenager.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 91A. This is a note from you to Mr. Depp, right?
That is correct.
This is a note you wrote on July 22nd, 2015.
That is correct.
And it starts off with the words, "My husband, happy honeymoon," right?
That's correct.
Ms. Heard, please take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 91A at page 67. This is another note from you to Mr. Depp in your journal, right?
That is correct.
And this one is dated August 1st, 2015.
That's correct.
And you write, "That's enough. You've held this book hostage long enough. Although I can't wait to read my note, I also couldn't wait to tell you how much I adore you. What a beautiful, extraordinary, magical, memorable, wonderful, stunning, surprisingly evolving, and impulsive adventure. I couldn't have imagined a more gorgeous honeymoon. I love you more and more every passing day. XX Slim." Did I read that right?
That is correct.
Let's take a look at the journal entry starting on page 68. This is another entry from you writing to Mr. Depp, right?
That is correct.
And this one's dated August 2nd.
That is correct, yes.
And this one is a longer one, so let's go to where it ends on page 70 of the journal. This is another note from you to Mr. Depp.
That is correct. The whole book is love notes.
So this is dated August 15th, correct?
That is correct.
And here you write, quote, "My love, why do we fight? Ever? Why? I love you more than anything else. Are we that uncomfortable with being vulnerable? Were we scared? Or is it something else? I don't know. But I am sure of one thing, and if it's that I can't imagine my life without you. I love you. I will do better. I am sorry. X Slim." Did I read that correctly?
That is correct.
Your testimony, this was a love journal?
That is correct. It was primarily love notes and
apology notes from you to Mr. Depp?
The book was more of a love note book, and part of that communication, obviously, since we fought so much, it was important for me to, try to nurture as much peace as we possibly could. And when things were good, they were really good.
And it was also an opportunity for you to apologize to Mr. Depp for your behavior, isn't it?
I think it's important in every relationship to apologize when you're trying to move past fights.
Here you write, quote, "I'm sorry I shook the wheels so hard. I'm sorry we've tested the shocks and brakes to this point. God damn, I love you, Johnny. I love you. I am tied to you forever, you know that? So I'm tasked with making this work for that reason and many others, of which there are many. Let me try to fix this. Let me try to patch this. Let me try to make your heart better. You deserve it. Hell, maybe even I do. I need you. We need each other. You're my cornerstone, my heart, my all. You are my life. I hate it when we fight. I hate having you hurt. I hate that you're hurting. I love you more than anything. Let me prove it. I need you. I love you. Slim." Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, another example of me trying to fix it. I was always trying to fix it.
Fix it by apologizing for your bad behavior?
I tried everything. I tried apologizing, I tried reading, I tried therapists, I tried everything to fix
But
it.
yet you couldn't change like you told Dr. Cowan, right?
I couldn't change my relationship.
Ms. Heard, we heard some testimony from you yesterday about a trip you and Mr. Depp took on a train in Southeast Asia. Do you recall that?
Yes, that's correct.
That was when you and Mr. Depp went on your honeymoon trip, correct?
That's correct.
And that was in July of 2015?
Yes, that sounds right.
Let's take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 162, which is already in evidence. You were here in this courtroom, right, Ms. Heard, when Malcolm Connolly testified to taking this picture?
That's correct.
This is the picture. This picture shows an injury to Mr. Depp's face, doesn't it?
I disagree. I've seen this picture.
Okay, Ms. Heard,
I've seen
I
this
got
picture.
the answer. Thank
before,
you.
and
You
he's
disagree?
not injured in it.
He's not injured in this picture. That's your testimony. Fine.
This one is Photoshop.
Ms. Heard, I have your answer. Thank you. This is the only photograph from your honeymoon that shows someone with an injury, correct?
That's not true.
We haven't seen any photos of injuries to your face from that train trip, have we?
I don't believe my face was injured on that trip.
If we could please play Plaintiff's Exhibit 397, which is already in evidence. And for the record, it's at 3504 through 3547. And then the next clip is 3635 through 4308.
Everything's fine until it doesn't go your way. And when it doesn't go your way, I'm in trouble. And you know what? I don't need you. I don't want your kind of woman. I want your kind of woman. I want your kind of woman. I might have. So if my
mistake. I wish I had.
oh, yeah.
I wish I hadn't. I wish I hadn't bought into any of your lies, your bullshit, your sober presence, your goodness, your sweetness, all the lies. I wish I hadn't bought into the months of you being you. I wish I hadn't bought into the promises. I wish I hadn't thought I could have kids with you. You're a kid yourself. I wish I hadn't bought into any of the lies you sold. Talk about fake bill of goods. You're the biggest. You're the biggest seller of fake bill of goods. Talk about presenting yourself as
I
something
did
you're
myself
not.
as a fake.
Suck my. Suck my.
You've left nothing, and I've left
Suck
everything.
my.
So suck your.
Yeah, go on.
Which is probably your next move, because it's what
Suck.
you fucking need. No, I don't want to suck your. I don't want nothing to do with your midsection.
Need something.
Well, go get it, man.
Because I need something. Go on.
Huh? I don't want to.
It's gonna be all moved out.
No, it's not really true, Amber.
Actually, it kind of is.
It kind of is. What are you talking about? You didn't want some Oh, is it? What is it?
No, I'm sure Rochelle's available. Call her up. I'm sure she's available.
Maybe she is. But we'll see.
I'm sure she is.
I'll let you know.
Oh, I'm sure she is. I'm sure for her yoga blog.
That fake laugh. That fake laugh is too much to take.
No, I'm sure she's.
That fake laugh is so disgusting.
I'm
man.
sure she's great. I'm sure she's great.
I'm thinking that you can give me some of
No.
the best performances in
No,
the
you're right. I don't. It's all about performance.
It's about performance. How am I don't regret. I don't regret.
Oh, what else?
I
What
don't
else
regret.
that you do? Oh, come on.
I don't
Be
regret.
more.
No, I
Come
don't
on.
regret.
Lay it on me. What else? What else other thing do you want to add?
Can't talk
you
to you
lying
like
piece
Bobby
of shit.
Bear.
What? Oh,
Start
no.
your
I
kids'
want
show.
to know.
Yeah,
I want to know.
Get out your Ubers out
I'm
there.
kind of waiting. You go get it.
Yeah, I'll be in.
Wait, is there no other place for you to run in your 15 other houses to go run? Come on, go be a real married man and go deal with your the way that a man does. Go run to the next house.
I wish I knew
Every
that.
man does.
Yeah.
Go.
Going
Run
through-
away. I know it's
with
hard to
your
look at your.
ridiculous
I know.
plan.
It's
Your
hard.
panic plan.
It's hard. It's hard.
Screwing everybody else
Poor
over
thing.
to get
You're
your
right. Right.
get what
That's
you
what I
want.
do.
You're the most spoiled brat. And you got everybody out here almost full, but it
you're
don't
right.
last
You're
long.
right.
I've
I'm
been
sorry.
here a lot longer
You're
than
right. You got to
because
figure it out.
You don't have figure out what you have to offer as opposed to going out and get your tits out.
You're right. That's what I do.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Lemon Field is excellent.
You're right. You're right.
Excellent choice.
Back to that. Well, I wonder what we else. I wonder what else we can reach for in the last 6 years. Oh no, it was 4 years ago. You're right. I'm sure there's other things you can find.
Go loud.
No, I'm not laughing.
Or, no, matter of fact,
I'm
laugh
not
here.
laughing. I'm not. It's
Oh.
serious. I'm sure you can find other things.
I know. And stripping. Man, well, there's always that. You can
You're
always
right.
go back
You can
to
write
that
a book.
for
You can
another-
write a book.
for another
I
10
know you
minutes.
can write a book. Oh, is this gonna be good for your book? Oh, should I have you sign an NDA for your book?
You don't even
Your book.
I'm not
Is this
gonna-
gonna be good for your book?
You won't even
Is this
make
gonna be
it
good
a
for your book?
I'll write what I
Hey,
want. I'll
I
write
have a
what
good
I want.
idea.
I have what
How
I
about you
want.
sell more of your journals? You don't want to sell out or anything. Let's sell you journals. Oh, wait.
Hey.
Hey,
Yeah,
no, you're
you
not
don't wanna
watching.
sell out.
No, you're not
You
selling
don't want
out.
to sell out,
no,
Magic Mike.
No,
You don't want to
yeah,
sell
'cause
out.
no one does
No,
21
man.
Drug Street when they're in their 20s. No, you're right. That's not selling out. No. When you're in your 20s, you should really know what you want. Like
By the
selling
way-
your journals.
By the way, if you didn't know who the I was.
You're right. Go sell your journals like a real non-seller. 55-year-old. Or, I'm sorry, 52,
6.
51. I don't know. It doesn't matter at this point.
No,
I don't think so.
it really doesn't.
I don't really think so. But you're right. I mean, hey, at least I didn't do like a TV show where I was heartthrob in my 20s. God, that would be like embarrassing.
Wow.
If only I was with someone in their 50s that could point that out to me. Imagine, Mike, you're right. When you play a non-sexualized object. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're right. You got it all figured out.
You don't even know what movies I've done.
If only I could
You
be
haven't
like
even
you.
taken an interest.
If only I could be
You know,
like
but I had to
you. If
watch
only
your
I could be like
I had to watch your direct and you trying to like
You're a joke.
spew
You're
out
a,
these lines.
you're a joke. You're a joke.
Yeah, I'm the joke in the industry, Amber. I'm the joke. I'm the joke in the
I'm
industry.
sorry, I can't really hear you. I'm sorry. The reruns of all my bull playing too loud for me to hear you. I'm gonna just go and pedal my way back. Sorry. I can't hear you.
Aquaman.
Oh, 21, whatever it was.
I was
Remembers anymore.
I was 20.
No one cares.
Washed up piece of
What?
washed up piece of
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Oh, what? I can't hear you.
Your jealousy's so tragic.
I'm sorry.
Your jealousy's so tragic. Like
Wait, I can't hear
thinking
you.
that I'm going on a road with a
Turn
band.
on my aid. I can't hear you.
You committed domestic violence against Miss Van Reed during your relationship, didn't you?
No, I did not.
You assaulted her at a Seattle airport in 2009, didn't you?
No, I did not.
And people saw that,
That's not true.
and it was covered in the press. Isn't that true?
It was planted in the press by Johnny's team 2 days after I got the TRO. Not
Can we
coincidentally.
please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1279? Amber Heard allegedly struck her ex-girlfriend, Tassa Van Ree, at the airport in 2009. Did I read that right?
Yes, this is another example of the smear campaign.
So Mr. Depp is not the only domestic partner you've assaulted, is he, Miss Heard?
I've never assaulted Mr. Depp or anyone else that I've been romantically linked to, ever.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You testified that in December of 2015, Amber called you over to her apartment so that you could check her out. Is that a correct statement? You testified to that?
Yes.
Okay, my question was, after you arrived, you observed injuries to Ms. Heard, right?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing that her head was bloody, where a chunk of hair had been ripped out of the back of her head?
Yeah. Yes.
Was her head actively bleeding when you saw her?
It was, it wasn't like dripping down her head, but it was raw and red.
Was it actively bleeding, if you remember?
Define actively bleeding.
Was there blood?
Yes.
How could you tell hair had been ripped out of her head?
There was a bloody patch with hair missing.
Your next witness.
Your Honor, we'd like to call Whitney Enriquez to the stand.
All right.
And you're Amber's sister?
I am.
Now, I'm going to take you to Mr. Depp and Amber, the early stages. When did you first meet Mr. Depp?
I met him sometime in 2011 for the Rum Diary press tour, but I did not meet him until 2012 as Amber's boyfriend.
And were you living with Amber at the time?
Yes, we had an apartment together on Orange Avenue. I split my time between there as well as an apartment I shared with my boyfriend at the time.
Okay. Now, describe your relationship with Mr. Depp in the early stages.
We got along really well at first. He was sober at the time, and Johnny, when he's sober, is very bright and beautiful and lovely and kind and generous, and he was very easy to get to know, and frankly, we all fell in love with him at first.
Now, describe your observations of Amber and Mr. Depp's relationship in the early stages.
Again, at first, that was wonderful. They were incredibly in love. I actually, to this day, have never seen my sister fall so madly for somebody. And things were wonderful. They seemed to really understand each other and get along well. But very quickly, this pattern emerged as their relationship went on, that if Johnny was using, there almost always was a fight. There was always a
Objection, Your Honor. Cause for speculation, lack of foundation.
All right. As the foundation, if you want to lay
Okay.
foundation.
What, if any, changes in their relationship did you observe?
That when Johnny was using, there would be a fight. I saw it firsthand.
Objection, Your Honor. Same objection.
Overruled. That's fine.
Thank you. Please continue.
If he was using or if he was drinking, there was almost always a fight. There was always an argument. There was always a period where they weren't getting along, and it seemed to oscillate pretty quickly. He would be sober for a little bit and then almost just as quickly fall off the wagon and start to use or drink, and there would be some big blowout, and it seemed to go back and forth pretty frequently. There was never an extended period of time where it was one or the other.
What, if any, changes did you observe in Amber over the period of her relationship with Johnny?
At first, Amber was Amber. She was loud, fun, funny. She laughed a lot. She was just this happy, bright, fun-loving thing, always surrounded by friends. And then it was a progression that took over such a long period of time, and it was so slow. In hindsight, it was like watching a slow-motion gunshot. She suddenly stopped sleeping as much. She wasn't as funny. She wasn't as loud. She wasn't as gregarious as she used to be. Cut to the end of their relationship, she was so physically unwell. She maybe weighed 100 pounds soaking wet. She was emaciated. She wasn't sleeping. She had developed a heart condition, and her eyes were sunken in. She just looked
Objection,
like
Your
two
Honor.
different...
Lack of foundation calls for hearsay.
She's giving her observations.
Well, heart condition. I'll sustain as to heart condition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other than the heart condition, please continue.
She just, if you were to do a photograph side by side, you would see two very different people. And people that knew her throughout the entirety of their relationship saw the same thing.
What, if any, observations did you make about Mr. Depp's treatment of Amber relating to clothing?
At first, it would be like light jokes, or, she left the house wearing something like, oh, you're going to wear that, or just some joke. It was very subtle, And then over time, again, just like the progression of their relationship, it just intensified. Then suddenly it's, they have the same stylist. He and I forgot her name, but suddenly they have the same stylist, and he had been essentially controlling what she wore to events and things like that. So she went from being able to wear whatever the hell she wanted, and then suddenly she's wearing anything that his stylist wanted her to wear, or wanted him to wear. And her style over time just got more and more conservative.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp be violent towards anyone?
I experienced him that night as Like, I was scared of him. So that's all I can say from the moment that, the one interaction I had with him that night, it was frightening to me. His behavior was frightening to me.
No, she wouldn't wear makeup?
I mean, I don't think of her as someone who wears a lot of makeup. No.
Yeah, you've known her a long time.
Right.
She's never been somebody that wears a lot of makeup, correct?
Exactly. Okay. Unless she's going to something that she needs to put makeup on for.
Right. But other than that, she's usually barefaced and beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's your recollection, your best recollection, that Miss Pennington was with you in Penthouse 5 and never left with Miss Heard before Mr. Depp arrived. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you hear some type of commotion. You don't know where it's coming from, correct?
It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like it's coming from, we hear commotion, and then it feels like it's getting closer and closer and closer.
Did it sound like voices, or did it sound like destruction?
It sounded like voices and destruction.
That the door was abruptly opened, correct?
Abruptly opened.
Okay, so you hear the commotion. It feels like it's getting closer and closer. What happened next?
Then, soon after, the door slammed open, and Johnny came, like, bursting through the door.
Who opened the door?
Johnny.
Okay. Was Johnny alone?
There was the two men behind him, following him.
So Johnny opens the door. He's got his two, what we'll assume are his bodyguards, with him. What happens next?
So it all happened very fast. The door kind of burst open, and he came in very, just from my perspective, really under the influence of something, drugs or alcohol, because he was very sloppily, he looked wasted. He was holding a very large bottle of wine, looked like some sort of like a Magnum bottle of wine, which was kind of spilling all over the place. And as he opened the door, he just, what I remember what he mumbled was, "Get your bitch out of here." And I just remember it all happened very fast, like the door slamming, him saying, "Get your out of here," the wine, that whole, his whole being really frightened me. It almost felt like he was coming towards me from my perspective. Whether he was coming towards me or not, it scared me. And I just ran out past him.
You said Mr. Depp appeared to be either drunk or high. Is that correct?
He seemed to be intoxicated.
Okay. Is that different than drunk?
No, yeah, I guess. Yeah, he definitely seemed like he was under the influence of something.
And on May 21st, 2016, how was Mr. Depp's demeanor different?
It was much more sloppy and all over the place and frightening and combative. Felt very angry. He felt angry. And yeah.
And when you say combative, what was combative specifically about his demeanor?
Just the way he burst through the room, just very forcefully, and rushed in very quickly to the point that it made me want to get past him and run out very quickly. Like, it wasn't an invite. It was very, it was intense.
Okay. So Mr. Depp comes through the door to Penthouse 5, and you hear him say something to the effect of, "Get your out of here," correct? Mm-hmm. And then you ran out immediately thereafter?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Depp spill any wine in Penthouse 5 before you ran out?
Yes.
How much wine did you see him spill?
I don't remember.
A lot? The entire bottle?
Not the entire bottle. What I remember was it was flailing, and there was definitely wine that was coming out.
Would you say that being sloppy is different than being combative?
Yeah, I would say sloppy and combative are two different things.
And it's your testimony that Mr. Depp was, on May 21st, 2016, both combative and sloppy, correct?
Yeah, I would describe it that there was a little bit of both. Yes, but combative and sloppy.
Was he more sloppy than he was combative?
It felt more combative than sloppy.
And just to clarify, the only thing that was combative was the words he was speaking?
No, it was completely the way he entered into the room, rushed in, his energy, the way it felt like he was coming after me, like he almost felt like, from where I was standing, it felt like he was charging towards me, and I was scared, and it was, it felt, yeah, combative.
There was a movie at Amazon that she had been offered with Gael Garcia Bernal. I don't know what the final title of it is called now. I can look it up. It had a working title at the time. That they took away from her. And, you know, the lead actor who was a producer on it very much wanted it to be her and was very frustrated with the process. And no one can say out loud, we're taking this away from her because, you know, of this bad press, because it's nothing she did, and it's all hearsay, and it's all, you know, whatever. But there's no other reason.
Good morning, Ms. Barkin.
Good morning.
I think the first thing that would be very short but very simple and clean for the record is if you could just describe kind of your career background. I know it's very lengthy, but just give a kind of brief summary of kind of when you started working and what you've done during your career.
I started acting professionally about 26 or 7. And I did theater, television, movies, lots of them. That's what I did for 40 years.
And in the course of your career acting in theater, television, movies, etc., did you come to meet a person by the name of Johnny Depp?
Yes.
Can you specify in time, Ms. Barkin, when you met him?
I would say 1990.
And upon or after meeting him, did there come a time when you became friends?
Yes.
And can you describe how that happened?
We just developed a friendship over time that lasted, I guess, if we met in the 90s, maybe 10 years, a little less.
And fair to say that Mr. Depp at the time was also an actor, a professional actor?
Yes.
Were you, did you act in any film, stage, or TV productions with Mr. Depp?
Yes, I was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
How often would you see Mr. Depp?
When I lived in New York, usually whenever I go to LA, if I were in LA, I'd see him once a week, maybe more. I mean, the friendship went up and down, living on different coasts.
And did there come a time when your friendship with Mr. Depp became more than that, became romantic in nature?
Yes.
And at what point in time did your relationship with Mr. Depp take a romantic turn?
After I had moved to Hollywood, and he, you know, switched the buttons.
Recall what year you moved to Hollywood?
Yes, 1994.
When you said switch the buttons, can you tell me what you meant by that?
The friendship went from a purely platonic friendship to a romantic one.
At that point in 1994, when the relationship turned romantic, to your knowledge,
change that to sexual.
To sexual.
Thank you.
For how long did your relationship with Mr. Depp remain sexual?
Several months. Anywhere between 3 and 5, 6.
And during that period, how often would you see Mr. Depp? That period when it was sexual?
I'd say I'd see him 3 or 4 times a week.
And again, I'm not looking to pry into private details, but can you tell me, like, where you would see him? Just give me some sense of that.
Yeah, he would come to my house, or I would go to his house.
And both houses in L.A.?
Yes, about 10-minute drive apart from each other.
And at either when you were at his house, where you didn't stay the night, or where you were at his house when you did stay the night, were there other people in the house who saw you there? Who would those people be?
He had an assistant, his sister, that's all I can remember now.
Do you recall the name of the assistant?
I don't know his name. He was referred to as Pig.
He was referred to by whom as Pig?
Johnny Depp.
At any point that you were either initially friends and then sexual with Mr. Depp, did you become aware that he drank to excess?
I was always aware.
Okay, and can you explain how you were aware of that?
He was drunk all the time, a lot of the time.
And that would apply both to when you were initially friends and then later when it became sexual?
Yeah.
And what was he drunk? What was your understanding? What had he drunk to become drunk?
He was a red wine drinker.
Okay. In addition to alcohol, were you aware at that time that Mr. Depp was taking any prescription medication?
No.
Okay. Same question, Mr. Barkin, for illegal substances.
Yes.
Same question. And what illegal substances?
Hallucinogenics, cocaine, marijuana.
Hallucinogenics, can you say specifically what those were?
I don't really know. Okay. He called me and told me he was tripping.
With respect to any of that, hallucinogenics, cocaine, or marijuana, did he do any of that in your presence?
Yes.
More than once?
All the time.
When you say all the time, how many times, again, in the period that you were both first friends and then sexual with Mr. Depp, do you think you saw him?
I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I just know he was always drinking or smoking a joint.
But would it be fair to say more than at least dozens of times?
Yeah. Over the full course, oh yeah.
Did you ever observe, Ms. Barkin, Mr. Depp's behavior change when he drank more or used more drugs?
I did not.
So he was kind of the same all the time, fair to say?
Was not the same. He was high.
Did there come a time, Ms. Barkin, when Mr. Depp acted in a way that was out of control with you?
Yes. Mr. Depp threw a wine bottle across the room, the hotel room on one instance in Las Vegas while we were shooting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Was something about to happen?
A fight was going on.
Between you and Mr. Depp?
No.
Who was the fight between you?
Between Johnny Depp and his friends in the room, the assistant. Honestly, I don't remember.
And the bottle do you remember sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, whether the bottle was full of wine or empty?
I don't.
Sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, do you remember whether the bottle hit you?
No, it did not.
Did the bottle hit anyone else?
No, it did not.
Approximately how far away from you was Mr. Depp when he threw the bottle?
Across the room, so maybe by that break in the table or a little further down. It was a toss.
And
throw.
Sitting here today, if the bottle had hit you, would it have injured you?
Sure.
Ms. Barkin, was it your understanding back then that he was throwing the bottle at you?
I don't know why he threw the bottle.
And when he threw it, was it in your direction?
Yes.
Was there other people standing around you?
Yes.
So he threw it in your direction at a group of people?
Yes.
Whose hotel room was it?
His, Johnny Depp's.
Who broke off the
He
relationship?
did.
How did it come about that Mr. Depp broke off your relationship?
I went to go home. There was a big goodbye, crying, a lot of jealous, don't do this, don't do that. And I never heard from him again after that.
And did Mr. Depp not want you to go back to Los Angeles at the time?
Yes, he didn't want me to go. I was only supposed to be there for 2 days. I stayed for longer.
And you just referenced, you just used the word jealous. How did that come up? What did he say that indicated to you that he was jealous?
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night? I had a scratch on my back once that got him very, very angry because he insisted it came from me having sex with a person who wasn't him.
During the time that you were in a sexual relationship with Mr. Depp, was it common for him to say things to you about being controlling, to use your words, or being jealous of you?
Yeah, very common.
And when, in these instances, when Mr. Depp became jealous or controlling, did he also become angry?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming if you were his talent agent that you would know how his career was tracking over that 30 years you were with him, would you not?
He became the biggest star in the world.
And do you take any credit for that?
Yes.
Was Mr. Depp a difficult client to represent?
He wasn't initially, and it became far more complicated in the last 10 years of my representing him.
And how did it become far more complicated in the last 10 years you represented him?
Showing up late to set consistently on virtually every movie. I would get yelled at. I never said to him, "You're a difficult client." I never used those words, but I was very honest with him and said, "You've got to stop doing this. This is hurting you." And it did. And yeah.
Did, even with your speaking to Mr. Depp about him consistently showing up late for set, did he correct that behavior during that last 10 years?
No.
And what types of difficulties did that cause for Mr. Depp?
Well, initially, crews loved him because he was always so great with the crew, but crews don't love sitting around for hours and hours and hours waiting for the star of the movie to show up. And it also got around town. I mean, people talk. It's a small community. And it made people reluctant to use him toward the end.
And when you say toward the end, was that toward the end of your representation of Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Do you recall difficulties that Mr. Depp had during Pirates 5?
Yes.
Did you have just one conversation with Sean Bailey, or did you have more than one conversation with Sean Bailey about Mr. Depp and Pirates 5?
More than one, I'm sure. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of the production of Pirates 5 having to suspend for several weeks while Mr. Depp had surgery on his finger?
Yes.
Did you go to Australia at any point during the filming of Pirates 5?
Twice.
Yes. Was there something that caused you to determine that that was the time you should get on a plane and fly to Australia?
Yes.
What do you recall that being?
The complaints about what I stated earlier about the lateness, not showing up to talk to him about it.
When you were talking earlier about there being a change in Mr. Depp's behavior over the last 10 years of your representation and it becoming more unprofessional. Was part of the unprofessional behavior his increased use of alcohol and drugs?
Yes.
Do you know who referred Dr. Kipper to Mr. Depp?
I did.
And why did you refer Dr. Kipper to Mr. Depp?
He has had a lot of experience with high-profile people and really helping them seriously get and stay sober.
Did you observe in your dealings with Mr. Depp as his representative that he romanticized the entire drug culture?
Yes.
The relationship with Mr. Depp now, what happened in the last 4 years?
Honestly, I don't know. Somehow I started to feel a distance. End of 2017, we had a gig, and I saw him, but he was really kind of distant and kind of f***ed up. And it's like he wrote me this weird text saying I stabbed him in the back and bad-mouthed him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he wouldn't explain it. And pretty much I haven't seen him since 2018. Didn't even get to have the whole bro argument. Just cut off. Can't get through to him. No return text, no nothing. No email. My daughter even got married and he ignored it. So I think there's some people behind the scenes talking about me because everybody always tried to position themselves, oh, who's the best friend and who's this, that, and when I was just there to be his friend. And I think there were some lies and said about me that he actually believed, which is surprising. And I've yet to have the conversation with him to go, what are you talking about? I know that he wasn't happy about my testimony, but I wasn't going to lie.